Do you think there are any rights that we have in America that are not recognized by the U.S. government?
Yeah, I don't, according to the United States government, I don't have the right to secede from the United States of America. According to the United States government, if I decide not to pay certain taxes, I run the risk of either having my stuff seized or going to jail or both.
Okay, wait a second. You don't have the right to secede? Can't you renounce your citizenship?
The United States government claims that if I wish to renounce my citizenship, I must leave the territory that the United States government claims to own, and then I must pay an exit fee of, I believe, $4,500. And there are hoops and hurdles that I have to go through, and if I don't follow those to the letter that the United States government says I'm supposed to follow, they will not recognize the renunciation of citizenship. But why should I have to leave? I should be able to live on the piece of land that I want to live on. And as long as I'm not violating the rights of another person, I should be able to, claim the free state of Darryl.
Okay. But aren't you, that property that you're living on, that land, is that really yours? How did you get that property?
Well, based on the current paradigm, nobody can really own land, because try not paying your local property taxes. After 3 years, some local government will come, kick you off of your land, and sell the land to the highest bidder. So currently, no one can own property.
Okay, so you have no property here. So I don't understand, how would you possibly secede?
Well, right now, you're not allowed to. Right now, if you go buy a piece of land from someone and you say, I don't want to be part of the town, I don't want to benefit in any way from any of the supposed services that the town provides, I'm not going to send you any money, I'm not going to use your schools, I'm not going to use your fire department, I just want to live on my land and be completely self-sufficient and not pay your taxes. After 3 years, the town would come, kick you off of your property, and seize your land.
How would you know it's your land? How would you prove that it's your land?
Well, in theory, you would have a property deed, because that's what happens when you buy property.
Who would issue the property deed?
You get a deed. Well, right now, there are governments that issue those things. And what I'm saying is, we're talking about the current paradigm of how could you own land? And there are things right now that exist. When you go buy land, you get a deed for the land.
Right.
If you're talking about what would happen in a free society, then there would be competing agencies probably that would issue such deeds.
Which one would
You're asking me to centrally plan liberty, and that's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in,
Wait a
Sam,
second. I want to hear about that other paradigm.
Right. Hold on, Sam. Hold on. Let me finish my thought, and if you keep trying to piss me off, I will disconnect from the call. So you're asking me to centrally plan liberty. I'm not interested in centrally planning liberty. I'm interested in promoting the idea of human freedom.
Okay, so wait a second. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you.
Not true.
I'm just trying to figure out.
I think you absolutely did mean to upset me.
No,
I think you absolutely do want to try to push me into a corner to where you can say, see, you don't have the answers of how freedom works. Damn it, Sam. Nobody has all the answers on how freedom works. That's why freedom is so important.
My point is that libertarians, if I'm not mistaken, do not like the fact that a government has a monopoly of force. And I am suggesting that in this case of a piece of property where we don't know who it belongs to, there are 3 agencies that say it's mine. There's 1 agency that says it's yours. You believe that your agency is the most legit agency and that my 3 agencies are corrupt. I believe I've got 3 agencies. 3 is more than 1. Well, you say, look, I'm going to go find 2 other agencies that say that this property belongs to me. And then the question becomes, how do we resolve this? And you're saying like, well, it's just going to work out. And I'm saying that at the end of the day, when we actually walk through this in reality, even if it's your
You're
paradigm,
saying
your
that
reality.
freedom doesn't work.
I'm saying that that's
You're
right.
saying freedom
I'm
doesn't work.
saying that's correct. That
You're
we're going
saying
to need an
that-
authority that's going to adjudicate this. And that authority ultimately is going to have a monopoly of power. And the only way that we're going to function and not end up in a fight that is going to determine this is if we all agree mutually, my agencies, your agencies, my people, your people, we all agree to submit to a authority that has a monopoly of power. Now, the best case scenario is that we make sure that this authority is at least as representative of us as possible. That's what I'm suggesting.
Let me ask this question, Sam.
Yes.
What happens if I don't pay taxes to your authority?
To our authority?
What happens? You're the one saying that we need a group that has legitimate use on the force of violence to force people to do what is best. And I'm saying, what should happen to me if I refuse to pay for your agency that is going to force people to do what you believe is best?
So in other words,
if I decide I don't like your agency killing people in the Middle East, I will not fund that. What should happen to me?
Well, I mean, I think if you don't pay your taxes to our government, they'll ultimately put you in jail.
No, I'm asking you, Sam, what do you think should happen? Not what does happen, because we know what does happen. What do you think? I want you to say it. I want you to say that I belong in jail because I don't pay taxes.
If you don't pay taxes to the U.S. government, ultimately, I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person. Thank you for having me on your show.
Darryl?
Heavyweight. Walter Block looks like the Dalai Lama.
Well, I thought he was talking hypothetically. I don't think that I would necessarily put him in jail right now. But yeah, I think if you don't pay your taxes that are due, yeah, I mean, I think if it's, I think you should get an opportunity to pay a fine first. And but I think he wanted me to say, he kept saying, say it. So I said it. And I'm sorry that ended so quickly.
You're a snitch in the world of libertarians, Seder.
Yeah, it's true.
Snitching them out on all them back taxes they ain't paying. It's fucked up.
We should say that Darryl was a candidate, primary candidate in the 2012 Libertarian, I think, campaign, or maybe it was 2016. I think it was 2012.
I think it was 16, and I think he ran against Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, yeah.
So was he one of those guys on stage when Johnson was it's legitimate for the government to license drivers?
Yes. Then we're booed. I mean, look, I mean, the vision that these guys have of the world, I think, is, it's a nice one. But it is every step along the way that it would take to get to their utopia, which I think is impossible, incidentally, is horrible for people. I think there are, in my mind, utopians on the left, and every step of the way towards that utopia on the left, I think, is good. And so I don't know that you'll ever get to your utopia, but if you get an eighth of the way there, it's better than where we are today. If you get a half of the way there, it's better than where we are today. Right. You get 3/4 or 7/8 or whatever it is. But with libertarianism, any step in that direction of that utopia you'll never reach is a bad situation, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and the actual vision of utopia that he just gave, that you have different private agencies that are all in the business of violently enforcing people's rights, that just sounds. I mean, that sounds like a dystopia.
That's feudalism. That's Mad Max. It's maybe
that's the world that they want, though.
Well, that's the thing, is that ultimately it really behooves you if you have an army already. If you already have amassed a certain amount, like if you are a small, like, duke who has a fairly sizable army, then yeah, actually that might be a good situation. I mean, all of libertarianism, it seems to me, is sort of like, we're going to create a year zero that necessarily leaves me, very often, not me, Sam Seder, but me, the person speaking, in a position of power that things are going to work out for me if we start from that point. Like, that was the conversation with Walter Block. I was like, when do you start counting property rights? Like, and it turned out, I believe, if my memory serves me, if I'm misremembering this, please forgive me, that it was basically when America was colonized.
Right.
So, coincidentally, we're going to start the clock at that point because of some French theory.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well,
emancipation, maybe.
It's like some, like, how the land is valuable because of the labor you put on it, et cetera, et cetera. We're just going to ignore the labor that actually, the indigenous people who lived here. Like, there's a reason why the forests were so lush in the Northeast, because there was controlled burns, by the Iroquois. We're just going to ignore the fact that, like, some of these plants are domesticated, some of these animals are domesticated. Like, I'm not even sure that is the way to measure it, but they don't count that. And they go, like, we're going to start here. And then from there, everything is going to be really consistent. You just don't go into the forbidden zone, which is before we actually had amassed a certain army, essentially. And that's,
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess there too, like, there's the historical issue that, which is that a lot of libertarians, like the kind of deontological libertarians, people who think that it doesn't matter if there are bad outcomes, this is just a principle and you have to follow it no matter what, they want to say that, well, it's okay if you have wealth inequality as long as it came about the right way. Nobody's rights were being violated. But then, of course, as you point out, the inequality we actually have did not come about all that way, right? That's like even in like Europe and the UK, we had enclosure of common lands to drive peasants off to, like, work in factories, and that's and that was a very cozy and consensual history compared to what happened in the New World. But then the other issue is, okay, let's say we could somehow like shake the Etch-a-Sketch so that, like, we actually did start out with like a completely pristine starting point for all property claims, or we had or just the history of the world was very different, and it was just like Adam and Eve and their descendants, like, freeholding unclaimed land. Even in that scenario, I still want to know about these, like, competing protection agencies, because that still sounds like a nightmare.
Well,
because they haven't been anywhere, right? They've never been to places like Brazil, where there's literally, like, private in law enforcement.
Yeah, they're like private militias that actually control massive amounts of territory.
And I used to watch your show, Sam. I live in California still. I'm native California. Lived in West Oakland, across the street from a very large homeless encampment, which is kind of the epitome of this free market that these guys love.
Right.
It definitely was a free drug market that had no police intervention whatsoever. And there was definitely issues with that free market, from cars exploding randomly from Molotovs and all the other things. But I always think about that. I used to watch these funny calls, living in that environment, and always think, I wish these guys would come down and see this libertarian paradise.